What's up, Ocean? You got Matt here. Today I'm bringing you a guide on how to use Glimmora in competitive Pokemon. This is the premier and best hazard setter in competitive Pokemon today. So if you're excited for the video, then leave a like on the video to help us reach our like goal of 75 likes. Make sure to comment your thoughts on Glimmora as well as which Pokemon you want to see covered next for your chance to be named the winner of the comment of the day and have your comment appear on screen right about now. And of course, guys, subscribe to the channel as well to help us reach our end of year goal of 4,000 subscribers. Let's go ahead and jump on into it. Starting off with Glimmora's stats, it has a really interesting stat distribution that doesn't at all look like what you would think it would be. It has 83 base HP, which is pretty good overall, definitely around the average. 55 base attack, doesn't matter, it is a special attacker. It's got 90 base defense, 130 special attack, which is crazy. 81 in its special defense and 86 speed. I'll be honest, when I saw this thing originally, I thought it was going to be slow. I thought it was going to be like a Ferrothorn type of spread. But no, it is very offensive, and I love that for this thing. In total, 525 base stats overall is very, very good. Its typing on top of that is good. It makes a lot of sense here. It is rock and poison, which allows it to have weaknesses to steel, water, psychic, and 4 times to ground. And then it has resistances to normal, flying, bug, fire, fairy, and poison 4 times. So a lot of resistances and a lot of weaknesses, but in general, the typing is fantastic both offensively and defensively. It also has some really good abilities, including one that is brand new to this Pokemon. This Pokemon has the ability Toxic Debris, which if hit by a physical attack, then it will spread toxic spikes to your opponent's side of the field. That's really valuable. So it means that you don't actually have to run T-spikes on this Pokemon. You can just sit there, take hits by a physical attack, spread the T-spike, and you are good to go. And that's super valuable because it allows you to run other moves that are going to be a bit better for your team. It also has access to another really good ability in Corrosion. This is Salazzle's formerly signature ability, but essentially this lets you toxic or poison any Pokemon regardless of their type. So you can toxic poisons or toxic steels. That's very, very good depending on what you're running. But I'll be honest, most of the time, Glimmora is going to be running a Toxic Debris set over Corrosion. It just really is very situational, and against, I think in Draft League it makes more sense than it would in Smogon or in VGC. Glimmora also has a really good offensive move pool, but where it really shines are its support moves. Here are some of the best moves that you could run on a Glimmora, starting off with its signature move being Mortal Spin. This essentially is just Rapid Spin, but poison type, and it poisons the opposing Pokemon, and that's really, really good. It's also a physical attack. I believe it's 30 base power if I'm not mistaken. In general, it's a fantastic move because it basically allows you to be the king or queen of hazards, and that's amazing to have with a Glimmora. Basically, you're going to get hazards up, and you're going to keep them up, and your opponent will not be able to get hazards up ever against you because you're fast, you deal damage, you have a great stat distribution, and you have the ability to spin away the hazards now, which is amazing. It also has access to all the forms of hazards that you really need. Spikes, T-Spikes, and Stealth Rock are all very common to see on a Pokemon like Glimmora. T-Spikes a little bit less so because you're getting up T-Spikes through your ability in Toxic Debris, but still is very good nonetheless. It also has other support moves like Memento, which is very valuable because after you get up your T-Spikes, you can go for Memento and then get into a Pokemon that can sweep. Very, very strong in a lot of situations. It also has access to Toxic. Now, Toxic is great because a lot of Pokemon lost the ability to run Toxic, and having Toxic with a Pokemon with Corrosion is obviously very strong. Spiky Shield doesn't see a lot of play, but it is definitely a possibility. It's basically just Protect, but if hit by a physical attack or a contact move, it'll do damage. I think it's 17% damage to your opponent's Pokemon. That's very valuable. Then there is going to be Rock Polish, really good for more offensive sets that want to sweep, could definitely see a lot of play, as well as Light Screen and Reflect, which are all very situational, but could work with a Light Clay. Next up for attacking moves, it has Sludge Wave and Sludge Bomb. A lot of Pokemon lost Sludge Bomb, which is really notable because this thing now has a special poison move that is single targeting for VGC, unlike a Sludge Wave, which is spread damage. So very valuable there. It also has a 30% chance to poison compared to 10% on the Sludge Wave, even though it's only 5 base power less. Power Gem is the best special rock move there is because it is 100% accurate, unlike Meteor Beam. Meteor Beam is still really good and honestly would see a lot of play on Glimmora if it had access to it, but either way, it's still a very good move to have. Earth Power is fantastic because poison, ground, and rock coverage hit everything in the game for neutral or better damage, and that's really solid. It also has access to Dazzling Gleam, so it can break through opposing fighting types or dragon types or whatever the case might be, and Flash Cannon as well has a lot of value. Of course, there's also going to be Energy Ball, which can hit opposing water types in the format. Now, as for teammates, these are the Pokemon that are going to pair best with Glimmora, and here's the thing. The best Pokemon to pair with Glimmora is going to be anything. Anything pairs well with Glimmora. Why? Because anything appreciates hazards being up. Absolutely everything does, and that's great. So I'm going to be a bit more vague in terms of talking about this Pokemon. I'm really going to go over specific roles rather than this Pokemon's great because of X, Y, Z. But in general, just keep in mind that hazards are fantastic and Glimmora can fit on basically any single team, at least in singles. In doubles, it's a little bit more hit or miss, but still is very good nonetheless in a lot of situations as an offensive breaker. So for singles, Iron Valiant is a fantastic partner. Why? Because it's got great speed and it's also got great offense. The issue is the most common set to run with Iron Valiant is going to be something like a mix set with like Moonblast and Thunderbolt and Shadow Wall plus close combat. So you're missing on a lot of damage rolls because you have to invest in both your attack and special attack. So getting up the hazards is really valuable for the Iron Valiant. You also get to keep them away for it. Annihilate is also really good because it's a setup sweeper. You're spending a lot of time going for Bulk Up or Rage Fist when it's not the most powerful attack in the world. So while you have T-Spikes up, your opponent can't realistically set up in front of you as well because they're going to be taking a lot of chip and then you'll be able to break through them pretty effectively. So it's one of the reasons why I do like Annihilate. Kingambit pairing with Glimmora is also really good because it relies a lot on Sucker Punch, and a lot of Pokemon do use Sucker Punch as a crutch. The issue with Kingambit though is because it's so slow, it has to use it a lot more often. So your opponent can just come in, click sub while you go for the Sucker Punch, and at that point in time, you're only doing basically 25% to them in forms of damage. That's really not enough to the point where Kingambit can be as useful. So having access to a Glimmora to get up Toxic Spikes and Hazards is really important, because now your opponent has to contest with the 25% from sub, 25% from the spikes, there are 3 layers up, 6 to whatever 25%-ish on average from the Stealth Rocks and that Glimmora set, and of course the T-Spikes. The T-Spikes are the big deal here because they're going to do at least 12% every single turn, which is very valuable and means that your opponent, even if they have the sub, you can just keep clicking Sucker Punch and do a lot of big damage, and your opponent can never freely get that sub and actually stay healthy throughout the entire time it's on the field. So really valuable there. There's also Goldango, and the main reason for this is because it's a fantastic Choice Scarf Pokemon with Hex, and when you pair that with T-Spikes, that's insanely valuable. And a lot of Pokemon that are running Scarf with Hex can definitely run this effectively, but Goldango does it the best in my opinion. Then there's a Azumarill because it can do many different things, whether it's Banded or Belly Drum or even Assault Vest. Getting that extra chip is really good to allow this Pokemon to just sweep a game or break a game open very easily. Then we have Great Tusk and Iron Treads, and I'm pairing these two Pokemon together here because they're the best Rapid Spin users in the game. So very important that you have a way to get rid of hazards, because if you're basically in a Glimmora war, and your opponent gets rid of the hazards first because they want a speed tie, then you have to make sure that you can get rid of the hazards on your own side of the field. And you don't want to run Defog, because if you're running Defog, you get rid of the hazards that Glimmora set up on their side of the field. So that's why running Rapid Spin, and these are the two best Rapid Spin users, makes a lot of sense. They also both get knockoff, just like the last Pokemon we're going to cover, which is going to be Cyclizar. Now the reason why Cyclizar is so good is because it gets knockoff. The reason why we like knockoff so much is because it gets rid of heavy duty boots on your opponent's Pokemon. That's incredibly valuable, so they start taking all the chip that they are going to be supposed to take from the Glimmora's hazards. So very important to have in a competitive metagame. You want to have access to knockoff with the Glimmora. As for the best Terra types for this Pokemon, there are a lot of them. The real concern though is, do you really want to waste your Terastalizing on a Pokemon that's going to be just coming in, setting up hazards, and then probably fainting? Most likely not. So you really don't want to run this that much unless you're going to be either more offensive or you really don't need the Terastalizing on anything else. So starting off with, in my opinion, one of the best ones, it's going to be Flying. Reason being, it gets rid of the weakness to ground, granting you an immunity, which is really good to have in a lot of situations, and you still are a good defensive type overall. I also think that Poison makes a lot of sense because boosting your Poison stab is very powerful, and you also get to keep the immunity to T-Spikes, and you can absorb them still, which is still very valuable. Ground is another great one because getting the triple offensive stabs of Poison, Ground, and Rock. So Edgequake is very strong because nothing resists them. About 60% of the metagame is hit super effectively, and that's insane to think about, that many Pokemon are hit for super effective damage from Edgequake plus Poison. Very powerful. Now for some of the best items on this Pokemon, there's a lot of them. I think Focus Sash, especially in singles or even doubles, depending on the set you're running, makes a lot of sense. Having access to the Expert Belt because your great coverage also works really well. An Air Balloon is great because you get a way to be immune to ground type attacks one time, which is really nice. And then the Shuca Berry, having that resistance or the weakening of the damage is really good because you have good defensive stats. You can take a super effective ground type attack. You definitely can't take a 4 times effective ground type attack. And then finally, the Assault Vest also makes a lot of sense, mostly because it's a really good defensive Pokemon with really good offensive moves. And I've seen in doubles where Assault Vest has been run to take a lot of these spread special moves and be able to do a lot of damage back with your own really powerful attacks. So definitely the Assault Vest makes a lot of sense. Here are some Glimmora movesets that you can run for your next competitive battle. Starting off with a Focus Sash set, which is going to be our lead here. We're running Spikes, Stealth Rock, Sludge Wave, and Mortal Spin. This is a really powerful set here that can do a lot of damage. Getting the Mortal Spin off is really nice for hazard control, and of course you're running max speed and max special attack on the set because you don't need the HP. You're going to be brought down to your Sash anyways. You might as well do big damage with Sludge Wave if you don't need to get up both your Spike and your Rocks. So really good there. Then I have an Expert Belt set with the Rock Polish, and the reason why I really want to show this one off is because a lot of the times in the polls that I posted to see which Pokemon you guys wanted me to cover next, I ended up having comments that said, don't do Glimmora, it makes no sense, everyone knows how to use it, it's just come in, set up hazards, and die, and that's it. And you know what? fair, but you can definitely run a rock polish set with coverage moves to do a lot of damage. Terra Ground on this Pokemon here with Sludge Wave, Earth Power, and Power Gem is really powerful, especially coming off a Pokemon with 130 base special attack. Very powerful. We then have a weird set. This is a light clay set here. Yeah, I'm not even kidding here. This time around though, we're running Corrosion instead of Toxic Debris. Why? Because we're running Toxic. So having access to Light Screen, Reflect, Toxic, and Mortal Spin does a lot of good things for your team. I do think this is not making the best use of Glimmora, but it is definitely a possibility to see in a lot of situations. Then finally, this is more for a double set here. It's the Assault Vest this time around. We're running a good bit of speed on this Pokemon here with a really high special attack investment, Power Gem, Sludge Bomb because it is single coverage, Energy Ball to hit a lot of the water types in the format, and then of course Earth Power to do really big damage across the board. I love this moveset here, and honestly these are 4 really solid Glimmora sets that you can run that aren't all going to be setup hazards and faint. So yeah, let me know what you guys think about them down in the comments. Now, the last thing we do on these videos are talk about the predictions that I have for these Pokemon in the respective metagames. I go over for Smogon, for VGC, and for Draft League where I think this Pokemon is going to end up when the dust all settles. So starting off with Smogon, I believe this Pokemon is going to end up pretty clearly being in the OU tier. Not because it's an amazing Pokemon, it's so good you have to run all your teams. No, but because it is the best hazard setter in the game, and it's really not even close. In OU especially, there's a lot of offensive things that are going on right now. Yeah, you have Pokemon like Skeledirge and Dondozo and Clodsire and Garganacl that are going to be just taking a lot of hits, but majority of the game is offensive. So having access to a great hazard setter means that you can pressure your opponents. And if you're behind the 8-ball on hazards, it's very hard to win unless you have great removal and have access to a lot of heavy duty boots users. So very valuable to have access to the best one out there right away. As for VGC, it is below average. Really, the main reason why is because it doesn't actually use its best set in VGC. How often are you going to click rocks or spikes or T-spikes in VGC? Rarely. That's the issue. If that was more of a prominent focus in the metagame for VGC, then I think it would make a lot of sense to have access to this Pokemon on a lot of teams. Right now though, in VGC, it's more of an offensive breaker. It works really well under Tailwind because you can run a 0-speed nature, a negative nature, a 0-speed EVs, 0-speed IVs, and you can all that things and do really well. But it also works very well in Tailwind too because it's got, again, 86 speed is not bad at all. That's really what I'm looking at with a Glimmora set for VGC. And then in Draft League, this is my specialty, and on a 17 to 18 point scale, it'll be around the 10 or 11 mark. And the reason for that is because there are a lot of Pokemon that get access to ground coverage, and a lot of Pokemon will have that so that you can prep around the Glimmora, so that way you can never get up your rocks. And because of that, you're gonna have to run Focus Sash or Air Balloon or Shuckle Berry a lot. And those items don't necessarily lend for Glimmora to be the most flexible Pokemon in the world. However, the reason why I'm okay with drafting it at 10 to 11, and I actually would draft it at that point in time, is because it offers a lot to a team as a surprise factor. Oh, you're not going to lead with Glimmora? Okay, well that's fine. You come in late in the game for late rocks? No. It is going to be an offensive breaker with the rock polish, with the life, or whatever the case might be, and it can do a lot of work. So I do think that Glimmora being offensive, at least in Draft League, makes a lot more sense than other Pokemon, and as a little mini Nihilego, we'll call it. So yeah, I do like Glimmora offensively and in Draft League. And that's all I've got for you guys today on Glimmora. If you guys enjoyed this video or you learned something new, then make sure to leave a like on the video and help us reach our like goal of 75 likes. Make sure to comment your thoughts on the video and on Glimmora down in the comments below for your chance to be named the winner of the comment of the day and have your comment appear on the screen right about now. And don't forget to subscribe to the channel as well to help us reach our end of year goal of 4,000 subscribers. Also, guys, I want to give a big thank you to our YouTube channel members. Their support is greatly appreciated. So shout out to our level 1s, which are Liv, Eric, Zeke, Texas Man. Our level 2 is Tone. Our level 3 is Sully. Thank you all for the support. I hope you enjoyed the video, and I will see you guys all tomorrow.